Hello everyone, hope you're all doing good. In the previous session, we saw the various definitions of language. Today, we are going to see the characteristics of language. So, the first characteristics is language is a means of communication, where language is a very important means of communication between humans. Let us take A and B. So A can communicate his or her ideas, or it can be emotions, beliefs, or feelings, whatever may be, to B, as they share a common code that makes up the language. Okay, so where there is no doubt, there are also many other means of communications that has been used by humans. For example, it can be nods, it can be gestures, smiles, it can be flags or acting, miming, dancing, and so on. But all these systems of communication are extremely limited, or one way or the other, they too depends on what? On obviously on language. Um, and these symbols are not flexible, comprehensive, perfect, and also really extensive as how a language is. So, language is so important, a form of communication between humans, that it is very difficult for society to think without a language. So, that is why, compared to the other communication methods, language is more flexible, it is comprehensive, and it is also extensive. And next is language is ubiquitous. Ubiquitous, the meaning of that word is it is present everywhere. It is, language is important as the air we breathe, and it is also, a valuable possession of a human being, of a man. Yes, of course, it is a valuable possession of a man, where language is species specific, and it is species uniform, and it is the specific property of a human, where humans are blessed with language, and it is the specific property of each one of us. So language is one of the vital part of communication. So the next characteristics is language is arbitrary. So language is arbitrary, where there is no inherent relationship between the words of a language and their meanings or the ideas conveyed by them. Um, I can give you an example here, where there is no reason why a female adult human being can be called as woman in English, Istri in Hindi, Aurat in Urdu, Zen in Persian, Feminine in French, and Thinvi in Punjabi. So selection of these words in languages mentioned here is purely arbitrary. It can be called as an accident of history. It is just like christening a newborn baby as John or James. But once a child is given some name in a purely arbitrary manner, this name gets associated with the child for his entire life, and it becomes an important established conventions. So that is why there is no particular inherent relationship between the word, the actual word, and the meaning that is being conveyed to the word. Next is the stability and change. So the arbitrary nature of language, it permits, or it also presupposes change, but that changes, that do not normally take place. So names once given are not normally changed. So words in a language are more difficult to change, because a whole society has accepted them. Therefore, while the arbitrary nature of language permits change, it conventionality gives its stability. So stability and change is a part of what? Language. And next thing is, if you take, few words in languages do have a relationship with the meanings or the ideas that they stand for. Example for that is onomatopoeic words, where it imitates the terms used for the words that imitate the sounds that they stand for. Example I have given you there again: bang, thud, buzz, humming, All these are called as the onomatopoeic words because it imitates the sound. It is formed out of the sounds. But such words are very few. And for the same sound, different languages have different words again. So you cannot say there is a fixed words uh, for the onomatopoeic words in all the languages. Again, it also differs. So language is purely what? It is arbitrary, where there is no inherent relationship between words and their meanings. The next characteristics is language as a system of systems, where language is systematically it is organized. Unlike a bricks in a building, sounds and symbols follows what? A specific arrangements. Okay, so this system operates at two level. The first one is phonological level and the second one is syntactical level. So phonological level is it's about the sounds of a language, whereas syntactical level is the arrangements of words, or it can also be phrases to form a meaningful sentences. So these are the two important levels where a system operates in a language. Next is duality of language, where language is called a system of system. Why does it call as a system of system? Because it operates at two levels. What are the two levels? It is phonological level and syntactical level. So this property of language is also termed as what? Duality. And this makes language a very complex phenomenon. Okay, so every human child has to master the conventions of the language before being able to successfully communicate with other members into the social group where he or she is being placed in. Okay, and the next characteristics is language differs from animal communication. So we all know language is primarily human. So who alone possess language? Exactly, human alone possess language. So human, first point is human language is infinite. So language can convey a large number, rather than an infinite set of messages, where animals, for example, they can convey only a limited set of messages. For example, if they are hungry or afraid, they can convey it to the fellow animals or even to human beings where it is very, very limited. Whereas if you take a human language, it is not so. They can convey messages along, like in an they can produce a language, they can produce a language in an infinite set of sentences. So that is possible in a human language. And human language is also discrete is which can be separated individually. So language makes use of a clearly distinguishable discrete identifiable symbols, whereas if you take an animal communication system, or often it is continuous and it is non-discrete. Let us take the example. So we can easily distinguish the sounds k, a, t, which is cat. So in the word cat, you can clearly distinguish the sounds k, a, and t. But one cannot identify or differentiate discrete symbols in the humming sound of the bee or the cow cow sound of the crow. It is not possible. So human language is discrete. And the third point is human language is open ended, modifiable, and extendable. It is true because we all know animals' communication system are a closed system where they do not permit any sort of change, modification, or addition in animal communication. So whether it is a bee's dance or it is a cock's crow, it is same how it was like 200 years ago. So it is same, there is no change. Whereas if you take language, in the case of language changes, it grows every day. And you can see new words continue to be added into the course of time. Let us take few words as an example. Sputnik, laser, video, software. If you take all these words did not exist anywhere in English language 300 years ago. But now we are using it. So that is why language is open ended, modifiable, and also extendable. And the next property is displacement. Um, We know animal communication, as in the case of communication system, if you take birds, dogs, monkeys, insects, whatever maybe, it is very limited. And it does not contain any information about the past or the future, or about the events taking place in the distant multi-dimensional system. Whereas if you take a human language users are capable of producing messages pertaining to present or past or even future. It can also be near or the distant places, that is in a multi-dimensional setting. So this particular property is called as displacement. So this property of displacement is not possible in a animal communication, where it is very limited. Let us see the other characteristics as well. It is productivity and interchangeability. Let us take productivity first. So we all know language is creative, and it is also productive. Like, a user of a language, he does not always produce only sentences that he heard or he has learned previously, whereas he can actually produce sentences, the basis of the knowledge of grammar and syntax of the language. So he can always produce new sentences, write new poems, or produce many other kinds of new literature. So that is why human language is productivity, it is productive. And the next characteristics is interchangeability. It can also be called as reciprocity, which is a process of exchanging things. So any speaker or sender of a linguistic signal can also be a listener or a receiver. So what's happening here is where you're exchanging things. So a speaker or sender can also be a listener or receiver. So it is an important characteristics of a human language that it permits a speaker to become a listener, and vice versa, without damaging the function of a language. Here the function of a language is what? Communication. So these are the important characteristics of language, important properties of language. So I have given few questions to know the understanding of the key concepts that has been discussed in today's session. So try to answer these questions in the comment box. Thank you. I'll see you in the next class.